If you saw AAVE drop in the last few days and looked at it thinking it was just a natural movement on the chart, pay attention because your reading is probably quite wrong. And let me tell you right away, this drop didn't come from anything on the chart. It's a movement that literally happened off the candle, off the chart. And only afterwards was it reflected in the price. There's a movement that happened outside. Afterwards, there was a development in the market causing this fluctuation over the past few weeks and even more strongly in recent days, making AAVE drop by nearly 20%. So to dive deeper into this analysis, I invite you, follow along with today's explanation. Today, I'm going to thoroughly show you what exactly happened that put so much significant pressure on AAVE's price, and together we'll carefully link this crucial movement to the detailed chart. And in the end, we'll comprehensively look at this important event. It could have an even bigger impact, or we might already be able to relax and go long, expecting a continuation of EIV in the long term. Before we talk specifically about price, let's talk about the movement in the crypto market. It will follow a well-defined path, and from there, you can gain another layer of insight. When the movement is a sell-off, it could be a market-wide move. So the entire crypto market is going down. Not necessarily will everything drop by the same amount, but you'll probably see Ethereum dropping, Bitcoin dropping, and several altcoins will be dropping as well. So we call that a market movement, a selling market movement in this case. In the case of AVE, it wasn't a market-wide sell-off. In fact, there was a day when Bitcoin went up, Ethereum went up, and several altcoins went up. And AVE dropped, and it dropped by more than 5%. So we've already understood that it was a movement specific to AVE. But why? What's behind this movement? What had such an impact on the market? And now I invite you to understand another layer. AVE is a token with decentralized governance, a DAO. On the other hand, and this is where the other side comes in, which today will be the antagonist, there's the team that develops the technical side. Let's call it AAVE Labs. So you'll have the DAO here and labs on the other side. What happened? When the decentralized team is aligned with the labs team that develops the project, that's really good. The token tends to go up. However, when there's any friction between these two teams, the market in general won't wait for anything bad to happen. It will act before anything bad happens. It will reduce risk. Pay attention, reduce risk. Reducing risk means selling. So yes, in fact, the market will sell. And at this point, a whale has already entered. A whale comes in and dumps on the market. And what happens then? The market starts to fall. We can see that the market drops for several days. It recovers a bit and then starts falling again on the 21st. So what happens next? What happens is that a token with decentralized governance operates through proposals and voting. And it was precisely a proposal that sparked controversy in the community and caused the decentralized part of the community, which holds the token, to clash with the lighter side, creating friction. So at this point, we're going to dive deeper to understand what kind of proposal it was and what caused this friction. As I just mentioned, when we say that DAOs and LFs often tend to go hand in hand, don't they? For the token, that's generally a really great idea. But in the specific case of EVE, what exactly happened? Well, there were 10 million compelling reasons. When I say 10 million reasons, it's precisely because the token earns fees there on the swap. That's normal. And then the question is, who does the capital go to? Who gets those 10 million, that specific $10 million fee? What did this friction with LEPs cause? The LEPS team published a proposal now during the Christmas period, which was seen by the community as out of context, mainly because we were on vacation, so a lot of people were away and not keeping up. LEPS put the proposal up for a vote, and then the friction, which was already quite visible, turned into conflict. And now we have a fight involving DAU and a LEPS. Obviously, as I explained a little while ago, the player who is allocating capital wants to reduce risk. This conflict came together with this proposal put forward at the wrong time by the LEPS team. Taking advantage of the holiday period to try to gain an advantage, it was not well received. People started selling even more aggressively, and that caused the market to drop sharply. So we're going to put it all together. First, the governance issue, which is already something to pay close attention to within E. Second, the conflict, the downside versus the lev side. And third, whales dumping the token. So combining these three factors, it really is a very, very strong combination for selling pressure. And this, in fact, happened on the chart. I'll even pull it up here to show on the screen where we can see that obviously it was already a downward movement happening within AAVE. But now in December, it culminated in the breaking of a support level that hadn't been tested for quite some time, the $150 region. So this $150 region for me is a critical point in AAVE. That's in the market. If it comes and actually stays below 150, if it comes here, breaks through 150 as support, drops, then comes back to test it as resistance and keeps falling. In other words, forms a lower low than the previous one. I'll clearly take that as a signal to close all my positions in AAVE, so I will close them. It's very likely, indeed highly probable, that the market will execute this significant downward movement, with the crucial 150 level serving as a strong and reliable support point. So now, as you can clearly observe, this is the current situation. At the 150 level, it made a new low, a top lower than the previous top, and a new low. I will close all positions, both in the futures market and the asset I'm holding. Why? Because at that point, it's not a general sell-off in the crypto market. It's a specific issue with AAVE. So in that context, I sell. Is there any context for buying? Let's take a look here. Moving averages are aligned downward. I wouldn't buy right now, especially since there's no long-term expectation. So since I already have an asset, I'm not worried about losing. It's just a matter of timing. I would wait for the market to make a new high, then for it to correct. And I would only buy at the bullish pivot. So this bullish pivot could be around 180 Rs, or it could be around 168 Rs. That's not a problem. Let's see that the structure here, called the core of the pivot, it doesn't matter if it's 168 or 180. I buy on the breakout of the pivot on the 4-hour chart. And by buying on the breakout of the pivot on the 4-hour chart, I'll set my target up near $280, $300. So if it holds up well, in this move, the long-term focus is at $300. And then we have AVE in a good spot with a target around $300, like the 300 region. So starting from 280, 290, $300, that's going to be our target. It broke 150, forming a bottom. If it forms a base at the bottom, we close out all positions and see what happens in the market. If you contributed here, feel free to follow our video, leave a comment, or ask any questions. Happy studying and see you in the next video.